and we would like Dr. Michael Peter-Mocholi to join us. And if you want to, Dr. Dennis Medvedev as well. And we are open for our Q&A session right now. So use the chat, write down your questions, raise your hand, and I can see your questions. All right, let's give them a second to organize themselves and write down their questions in the chat or raise their hands if they have a question. And while we're waiting, maybe I would like to start with the question. No, there is the question. Wonderful. We have a question right now. And it comes from Mattatela Ntsatsi. Please, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much. I just have 3 points maybe which I didn't understand well when they were addressed, especially concerning the financial issues. I was trying to spot out which are the potential financial supports that we, the developing countries, can access, especially to see on how we can be able to assess those finances. Because the understanding is that, yes, it's true that we have seen on how far the other countries have done. But we felt if you could have, maybe this is a potential that you can apply, and this is how you can be applied. You can apply for. It could really help, because we have more interest in cooling plan, carbon finance, also in research that includes the issues of prototypes that we can be supported. I think they can help me. Maybe I couldn't realize those points. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So that was the question for resources and funds. Who would like to get to that question? Michael, maybe you?
Well, from the financial side, I don't know that much. I'm more technical expert from the maps and label side for energy efficiency and so on. But if I understood correctly, the question how to implement this, like carbon credits and the savings from that can get from the energy savings and so on. So we are working, for example, in a project where in Nigeria and Ghana, where we will be working with financial mechanisms and rebates to support like consumers to get like R290 air conditioners and really high efficient air conditioners. And of course, when you invest on this kind of rebate and financial mechanism to support consumers to buy these kind of appliances, you can also obtain carbon credits from this investment as an institution and so on. So maybe countries that wants to apply like carbon credits from this side, they could also support consumers on purchasing this kind of high-end and high energy efficiency and low GWP refrigerant equipment. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Anna, would you like to add, or should we move to the chat?
So perhaps to add on the financing bit, of course, there are a number of solutions. that are available. Some of them, we discussed in the report that Anna was presenting. I don't want this, and I don't want to make it too much about IFC, because I think we're talking about solutions by all kinds of organizations, but certainly, one of the programs that IFC has in this particular space is called Tech Emerge, where we've funded, together with support from some of the donor governments, a lot of new innovative models. So there's, the type of financing ranges from kind of grants and equity type of financing that goes to innovative companies that operate in the space, all the way again to the work that IFC has done with larger financial institutions in terms of different kinds of bonds, whether it's general green bonds, whether it's specific, whether it's green mortgages to support green buildings. So there are a number of initiatives there that do specifically benefit developing countries to implement these sorts of initiatives. There are other, of course, multilateral, bilateral institutions that also are engaged very actively with developing countries to build the market for these kinds of things. As Anna explained in her presentation, of course, because there's so many levers, it's difficult to talk about one or two initiatives. I mentioned a few examples, but the market is much broader. What I think is clear is that we do need to grow the overall size of this market, as well as pilot different types of financial instruments that respond to particular challenges.
Thank you very much. Let's move on to the chat. I have a question directed to you, Mikael. So how does the CSPF value translate into European split ACs? MEPs is 4.6 right now.
Yes, there is not like a direct conversion from one metric to another one. Especially for the European Union, because the CSPF also can vary also depending on the weather table that you are using for different countries. So in my presentation, it was there were some values for the CSPF, and for those values of the CSPF, we were using the weather table that is by default in the ISO standard. So, but this ISO standard, they can be used by another country, and they can change to a different weather table, and they will be getting different CSPF values. And from weather tables that are used using the ISO standard, is easier to convert. To the European Union, it's a bit more complicated because they are using also different test standards, not only the weather table, but also different test points and so on. So it's a bit more complicated. I cannot say you this is 6.1 in the European, 6.1 of CSPF in the ISO standard is similar to 4.6. I cannot say you the exact conversion, yeah, but the 6.1 that we are recommending, they are based on best international practices in MEPs that has been implementing in China during these last years. So, and in China, they are using the ISO standard, so it's easier to make this comparison. Yeah.
Thank you very much. We have two more questions directed to IFC. One is, does the 272 billion in 2023 refer to active cooling measures only? Yes. And if yes, do you have estimates of what the passive cooling market size in emerging markets would be in 2050?
Yes, so the 272 is active cooling alone, and then we have the 30 billion estimate for passive cooling, for passive measures today. We do not have an estimate for the passive cooling market by 2050 because of as I mentioned, it's a much harder market to estimate, and by getting to 2050, we don't have any projections on the building codes and all of those advancements. So we do not make those because of all the uncertainty involved.
Thank you very much. Second question to IFC. Are there already funding lines which cover passive and active cooling investments?
Yes, so I think Dennis mentioned a little bit already on the funding on his previous response, but we do have those initiatives, such as one of our biggest initiatives was the Tech Emerge, which was focused mostly on innovation. And there are, as I mentioned, for instance, for the EDGE buildings, if you get EDGE certified, that helps you get access to green finance. And there are also a lot of other initiatives with other multilateral organizations and all that.
Thank you very much. So the chat is running, which is really nice. Just want to remind you, if you see a question that I really should ask, give your thumb up, okay? Because we have only like 4 more minutes left. And if you vote the question you want to get an answer to, let us know. All right, we have a question. What precautions should be taken when replacing an HFC air conditioner with an R291? Space, the presence of electrical or electronic devices, electrical outlets, and closed spaces. So the precautions with propane.
Yes, yeah, yeah, I can answer that one. Yeah, so yeah, everyone is really worried about propane sometimes when they start to introduce air conditioners with propane. We have already electrodomestics like the refrigerator also already has R600A also, which is also hydrocarbon, also with A3 level of flammability. Of course, we have less refrigerant inside. So for the air conditioner is a bit more, you need more precautions. So at the end, you need to follow the safety standards during the whole process, during the manufacturing of the air conditioner. So all the equipment inside is prepared so there are not sparks that could start like a fire or things like that. And then you need to follow also the standards for the installation of the air conditioner, not only for the manufacturing. And here is where it comes the electrical outlets and so on. So for example, for the electrical outlet, you cannot just install the indoor unit just above one of the electrical outlets. It needs to be a certain distance. I don't know the exact details, but I think it's the ISO 5149 is the one that that tells you how you need to install all the air conditioners with flammable refrigerant. Yeah.
And once you do that, what's your take on using propane once you've taken all the precautions necessary?
Yeah,
I
guess is like the refrigerators before. People was scared about R600A refrigerators, and now everyone has R600A refrigerators at home because there are safety standards that if they are followed, it is safe to use them. So for the air conditioners will be the same. We need capacity for technicians, of course. We need to follow the safety standards, and this is not built from one day to another, but it's been a while already that the R290 is out there, and countries are advancing on having all these capacities and for the implementation. So, and now with the new F-gas regulation, I also see a faster implementation of this type of air conditioners. Yeah.
Exactly. Thank you so much. Regarding the revised F-gas regulation, we have a question around the definition of sustainable cooling for you, IFC. So what role do refrigerants play in IFC's definition of sustainable cooling? Is the IFC's definition aligned with the Kigali Amendment, or does it go further and align with the EU revised F-gas regulation? Does the IFC take PFAS into account when defining sustainable cooling?
Yes, so our definition when talking about sustainable cooling, so we align with the definition from the Global Cooling Watch. So that says that sustainable cooling technologies are accessible, affordable, and scalable, and minimize environmental impact, and also with the goal to achieve near zero emissions by 2050. So as shown in the Global Cooling Watch report, in order to get to that, we need to have this phase down of HFC refrigerant at a faster rate than what's required under the Kigali Amendment. Yes. You're on mute.
Julika, you're still muted.
Yes, thank you so much. So our last question would be, at present, more or less, passive strategies are funded with approximately 11% in relation to the funds available for active cooling. What do you consider the 2 or 3 most important steps to change this?
So maybe I could start and then Annalisa can complement. It's hard to sort of say what are the 2 or 3 most important things because obviously it's all context dependent. This said, I would really encourage everyone to start thinking more about the demand side of the issue rather than supply, right? So instead of thinking about how much funding is available, let's think about how do we generate more demand for passive cooling. And for example, the report will get into some of the details of that. Obviously, that has to come, for example, from the regulatory side. We need to have the regulations that make it easier and that promote the adoption of passive cooling. We also need, on the architect side, for example, architects who know about passive cooling strategies and who actively suggest it to their customers, right? If they don't do that, that market is not going to move. We need consumers themselves who understand the importance of passive cooling and again, who ask for it in terms of buildings, whether it's residential or commercial. So I think the demand angle is probably underestimated. If we make a lot of progress on the demand side, I think we will see a lot more adoption and the financing will follow. There are many instruments that are not exclusively dedicated to either passive or active. They're more aimed at improving the adoption of sustainable cooling periods. So I feel like a lot of that money will become fungible once we see growing sustained demand for passive cooling strategies. And of course, it's also important to recognize that those are more likely to happen in new builds. Not all the time. There's some passive strategies that can be applied equally, but particularly as we build up new areas, the understanding the importance of passive strategies is going to be really a key driver there. Annalisa, anything to add?
No, I think you said it perfectly. And just to reinforce the point on new builds, that yes, it is much easier to have these passive cooling strategies in new builds than to have retrofit later. That's much more expensive.
Thank you so much. Mikael, do I detect your eye movement correctly that you are reading the chat? So if you want to reply to something that is worth mentioning to you, please do so, and the same goes to you, Annalisa and Dennis. Last chance to add some comments, clarifications, or answers. Mikael.
Sorry now. Yeah, I was reading the question about the safety precautions and things like that. Of course, we cannot go through all of this, but tomorrow we are going to have another the season 6, so maybe we can talk more about these kind of things tomorrow. Yeah.
Exactly. This is what we're going to do. Annalisa, Dennis, are you ready to wrap this session up and to say goodbye to this year's Green Cooling Summit? I guess
yes,
you
I think
are.
so. And we're just very thankful to you and the team for giving us the stage to talk about this report and this work and really encourage people to continue engaging on this topic.
Thank you very much. And once
thank
again,
you very much.
Yeah. Thank you, Annalisa and Mikael, for your presentations. And with this, we are going to wrap up our first day. Give some reactions to our presenters, to our speakers. Leave some hearts, some reactions in the chat. Thank you so much. And with that, I would really like to take a look at our graphic recording because we've taken a look already, and now I'm really interested to see what Anna Lehmann recorded for us. So here we see session 3. All right, I think, yes. Thank you very much. I'll just leave the sharing to you. So if you want to show another picture, again, maybe we start from the beginning. There we can see, well, we lost it, but now we saw the whole slide. maybe we can take another look. But while we're waiting, dear participants, thank you so much for joining and for being active throughout our Q&A sessions, leaving comments in the chat. Please let me know if there's one thing you could take home. What is it? Just let me know your key takeaway message from today's Green Cooling Summit. Leave it in the chat. And while you do that, we can take a look at the graphic recording of the keynote, Building a Better Future, the Natural Way. Thank you so much. So we need to avoid excessive temperatures, right? You remember, right? Adapt your clothes to the temperature. Thank you so much, Anna. Maybe we can move on to session 1 and take a look at the graphic recording from session 1, climate and environmental impact of natural and halogenated refrigerant in chillers and condensing units. Oh, okay. I see the study, Tevi, of course. Thank you so much. It looks really great. Thank you so much. Let's move on to session number 2. District and central cooling and heating, the experiences. We learned about the energy district strategy in Colombia. We heard about the near zero energy buildings in Ghana. And then we talked about the sustainable heatings in buildings. Thank you very much, Anna. Let's move on. While you are actively leaving your comments in the chat, like change is in our hands, or Esperanza, which we do like, or technologies and processes are available, but still a challenging way ahead. Or there are several potential financial support to support cooling function in cooling plants. Thank you. And now we see session number 3 on enabling policies and financial incentives. Thank you so much for sharing your graphic recordings with us. And yes, of course, we will provide you with all the materials from this Green Cooling Summit. We will provide you with the presentations, and the team is working to answer your questions. And as Mikael just said, that all the questions who did not get answered today will be placed in our session 6 tomorrow. So we would be really happy if you could join us for our session number 6 tomorrow. And Anna Lehmann, once again, thank you so much for capturing our main takeaways from today. And I'm really looking forward to tomorrow and take a look at your graphic recording again. Let me briefly show you the agenda for tomorrow, because hopefully you are in the right time zone to join us tomorrow, because tomorrow there's going to be another really interesting day ahead of us, where we will start by recapping the day from today together with Dr. Daniel Graf from UBA. Then in session 4, we will focus on the passive strategies for reducing cooling demand. We again will offer our networking break. I'm really interested in learning how this went. So please, if you would like to leave a comment regarding the networking break, that would be highly appreciated. And after our networking break, we have our session number 5 on room cooling and heating, and we will learn from experiences with natural refrigerants. After our normal break, then we will enter our session number 6, where we will work in the same way we did today in our networking breaks. We will have different meetings set up where you can have almost an hour to really discuss the topics of the sessions. We will provide the questions that we collected during the summit. And with that, dear participants, thank you everybody for joining us. Hope to see you tomorrow and have a nice rest of this day. Thank you very much.